Welcome, dear viewers, to a new episode of the Untold. This program is brought for everyone who's really interested to know more about our guest journey and, of course, get inspired by them. With that being said, today's guest is very interesting. She is a dive master. We're going to know more about her journey when it comes into mastering diving as well. With that being said, we're going to know more about her after this break, so stay tuned with us. With that, dear viewers, really happy to welcome with us in the Untold our guest. She's a dive master, Mariam AlSaif. Really happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me today.
So, of course, at the beginning, we'd like to know more about you. Talking about diving is something very interesting. A lot of people would consider it something risky or really, let's say, terrified to try such sport. But we want to know from your own perspective, like, why did you choose diving?
I think it's something that I just happened to stumble upon. I was in Australia, I decided to try it, and I just fell in love. It's one of the only things that I think, because my mind is always just so busy, that being so present underwater just kind of calms my mind. So
Yeah.
it's just such an addictive sport to do. So 8 years now, inshallah, a lot more to go.
Well, amazing. I mean, it's very interesting because when you say Australia, the first thing comes to my mind is surfboarding. So, with that being said, I mean, choosing diving is something very quite interesting. Like, having that said, haven't you tried, let's say, any kind of, let's say, water sport that could lead you to reach towards diving?
Actually, when I used to live in Australia, I did try surfing.
Okay.
It just wasn't my thing. I think for me, I understand with the years what my relationship with water is. And with surfing, water is kind of like it's a lot
Yes.
because it goes fast. You need the speed to pick
Yeah.
up to be able to stand on the
It's
board.
kind of, let's say, it needs more energy, like so energetic when it's on the surface and surfboarding. Well, it's really calming and soothing when you're diving underwater. So tell us about that kind of experience, the moment that you really felt in love with that kind of sensation.
I think it was the second time I went diving, because the first one I really didn't like it. I felt weird thinking that I was able to breathe underwater, and as mammals we can't. So it was definitely the second dive where I got used to it, and I just couldn't believe I was so close to fish. They weren't scared of me. I felt like I was having a very special relationship and interaction with them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I look now for on every dive.
Which was really interesting. We always have these kind of moments at the beginning, these stories that we always remember. As you just said, the first time that you've tried it was really difficult in a way. I mean, it's very interesting, yet very, let's say, how do we say it? Very terrifying. We're always scared from the unknown. If we've never experienced something, we always have that kind of tent of why don't I try it later, why don't I try it maybe next year, and so did you have that kind of hesitation when it comes into trying your first dive? Like, did you have that kind of feeling?
Definitely. I think honestly, majority of divers before they end up getting their dive license always feel scared, because it's just so much. You have the gear, you don't understand what every function does, so you're unaware, which makes you more afraid. So I think kind of knowing what each thing does makes you feel less afraid. And so I definitely don't see divers and think, oh, it's very difficult to do. Like,
Yeah.
we're all able to do it and enjoy it also.
Yeah. So, Mariam, when it comes into you trying, of course, diving, you reach to a point where you actually feel calm and relaxed, and always wanting to feel that kind of feeling where you're always, let's say, surrounded by nature's marine life, and just get away from all of the busyness that we actually face during, let's say, life in general. So, having that said, how tempting is that kind of feeling once you get used to it? Like, a lot of people would say, always try to find that balance, and don't get isolated by always wanting to go and dive and have that kind of experience.
Yes, I think because our lives are so busy, the balance is to dive. And how I started this is I used to, I mean, I still do, but work in Kuwait, you do the 9 to 5, and then I started noticing that I want to travel. I want to have that breakaway, that being in nature, the calmness, the stillness, the amount of presence you get from being in nature. So it's definitely a balance that we all need. I also don't think I could be in nature all the time. I will miss, being able to work and use my brain in that different way. So definitely, yeah, having that balance is important.
Yes, and it's always important to always have that time for yourself and just to go and enjoy your, let's say, on being. And having that said, a lot of let's say people would say, "I'll travel to visit places, to visit new countries, and shop and do stuff like that." But when it comes into a diver, they always seek that kind of leisure of traveling to explore the sea and different kind of, let's say, marine life. When it comes into that, like, have you let's say managed to explore that kind of, let's say, beautiful seas and enjoy, of course, that kind of exploration at the same time?
Yes, I love that. Again, 70% of Earth, if not 70 plus 72%, is water on Earth. So, true, we always try and search for the land and the countries, but I search for water.
Yes.
I search for the different waters in the countries. And yeah, it's always great because every different part of the world gives you different kind of marine life, different types of coral formations underwater, very different things to see. So that's how I kind of view the world. I don't view the world by the land. I view it by the difference of underwater
Yeah.
structure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Since we're living now into, let's say, social media generation, lots of people get influenced by what it's actually presented over there, over that platform. I mean, it's now more easier for a person to actually discover the landscapes and even waterscapes when it comes into different kind of marine lives. And so what attracts your attention when it comes into, let's say, exploring the sea of the country? Is it that, let's say, for instance, finding some ruins underwater that could attract your attention? Some people would go for shipwrecks and stuff like that, or do you like just to enjoy the marine life in general?
For me, every place has something different. For example, Mexico have cenotes, which are like caves. They're back from like the Aztec Mayan times. They're known as very spiritual places for them. So being able to dive that is a very different experience than, for example, the Maldives, which has just very big things to see, like a lot of big marine life, a lot of sharks, a lot of big fish. So each place has different things, all equally beautiful, but definitely a different feeling that they each give you.
Yes. So one of the things that people always keep in mind is once you're thinking about a diver, they always connect it to a shark. Is that the most, let's say, dangerous thing or risky thing that a person could actually see for divers as, let's say, a sport is facing a shark? So tell us about that kind of, let's say, experience. Like, does it really, is it really true that people do connect that with divers?
Of course, yes. I mean, since I'm sure all of us have seen Jaws as a kid, that was actually what started this whole thing with sharks being bad. It's been from that period, and Steven Spielberg has said how much he regrets making that movie because it's just now ingrained in us that sharks are bad. And they're definitely, apex predator. We're in their land. No such
Right.
thing as a shark infested water. You wouldn't say a shark infested safari area. It's like, this is where, like, for example, this is where lions are, lion infested. You don't have that. So it's the same thing. Sharks are important for the ecosystem. Maybe just having an awareness, learning. Now everyone's learning the different ways of, what to do if you see a shark. And trust me, as divers, you search for the sharks. Very rarely are you just going to happen to stumble upon a shark when you're diving. So,
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with you on that. A lot of people get really, let's say, scared and terrified when it comes into watching movies, and especially if someone said that's based on, let's say, for instance, true life events and so on. So we've been seeing so many things that could happen, especially that relates to shark. And yet again, it's dangerous is because we are entering their own, let's say, environment and not vice versa. And so one of the incidents with Jaws is that I remember my uncle never entered the sea at all after watching the movie, and there was a release of a movie again, a remake. And it's not a remake, but it was more of, let's say, another Jaw, and he was like really terrified watching it. So I really, let's say, relate to it in a way, and it really affects people also at the same time. And the most important thing is to always educate yourself. People, I believe that they learn about that kind of information without seeing the facts of it, or what's the story behind it, like what let's say triggers a shark to actually go and bite someone, or let's say is it once when are they dangerous, like people would consider a shark dangerous no matter what the circumstances, but they always say if the shark is up in the level where you can actually see this, that means that they're looking for food and stuff, and if they're deep in the water, then they're just relaxed. And so, like, is it really true when it comes into that?
Yeah. Correct, Hiba. It's true. That's why there's a lot of things that you do, for example, as divers to kind of combat that and having an encounter like that with a shark, which is don't be on the surface. As soon as you get off the boat, you should go down to 10 meters and below as fast as you can, just because, again, that is considered where a dead or dying animal would be, is on the surface. So they automatically would just be curious and go to you to kind of see what you are, and you don't want that to happen.
Right.
So definitely a lot of precautions put in place, but yeah, I heard you're more likely to die by a vending machine falling on you than being attacked by a shark. So there's a lot of crazy statistics like that.
Yeah.
Where you're more likely to die from other things than getting attacked by a shark.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, having that said, as a diver and as your association with all of, let's say, marine life and so on, what are the things that terrify you? Like, is there something that you're actually terrified from rather than the regular of sharks?
Gosh. You know, I would say sharks still terrify me. And I think maybe that's something that a lot of people get confused by, because I dive with sharks all the time. But I think sharks are to be respected, and a form of respect is to understand that at any moment something could happen. So you should still kind of have this like vigilance towards them and be aware and not see them like a puppy. Like a lot of people think or try and rebrand them as they're the ocean puppies. Like, no, they are an apex predator that will bite you and mistakenly bite you, of course.
Right.
But yeah, so definitely I still have that with sharks. And I think it's important to have, just so you still have your eyes on them and keeping yourself safe.
Yeah. You know what terrifies me really about diving is that kind of sense of only... there's nothing, you know, it's so let's say quiet and calm, and that's what terrifies me, is like I don't feel anyone, or I can't sense anything. And I think, and I believe this is what makes me really, let's say, unable to still take it more of a sport, because, you know, one of the most important thing is to always be associated with that kind of sense of sound, and having that sound makes me really calm. So yeah, I believe everyone has their own, let's say, fear, but yet again, never take your fear in let's say, in a way that it could lead you to stop let's say developing your own, let's say, hobbies and sense and passion as well.
Yes.
I mean, one of the interesting things that we've seen through your social media platform is that kind of great connection of presenting what you do and what you love to the audience, so that they could actually relate towards that kind of sense of passion. How important is actually exploring that in a way and giving it to the audience as well?
I love it. I think when I started my platform, I didn't think that I would have so many people who weren't divers then become divers just because of me, because I'm so passionate about diving, about the conservation of sharks, that people would go from never being licensed to now this is their favorite sport, from fearing sharks to now this is their favorite marine life animal. And it's all because of what online we feel people's passion, we feel people's love for things. And all I want is for people to understand that it's all a loop. To get people to become certified divers means that automatically they have more of impact on the environment. They are diving, they are one with the ocean now, one with the sea, and they want to take care of it. So it's actually a good thing, because the more divers that there are, the more likely that, you know, they'll use less plastic, they'll make sure they reduce maybe their fish intake, make sure it's more sustainable. So it all like works out in like a beautiful cycle.
Yes, it's really amazing to hear it from you. And of course, we're going to continue with you on the interview, but dear viewers, we're going to head to our first break and then we'll be back. And we are back, dear viewers, to continue with our guest, Mariam AlSaif. So, one of the things that really grabbed my attention is the unboxing of your first fins that you actually got, which was a black color fin. Tell us about that kind of, let's say, feeling when, that kind of connection with your first, let's say, always first fins, first dive, and first things that you always have. And of course, with the black color as well.
Yes, definitely. Black is my thing. I love black. I think I've unknowingly branded myself as being the all black dive girl. And it's such a beautiful feeling. Every time I get a new piece of dive gear, it's always that one step further in my journey, in my dive journey so far. So getting those fins, they're for free diving, but I also can use them for diving as well. They're very good to like kick against the current because they're very hard and they're very long. They're free diving fins. So when you just do one with the fins, you really go far. So yeah, it's always exciting to get new gear. I love it. It's a
I mean,
nice
they
feeling.
also give you that kind of sense of, if you're a fan of mermaids, like give you that kind of sense that you're actually a mermaid with that speed and without all of the flappy things that had actually been with it. So having that said, it's always amazing to always feel connected in a way, and always having this kind of, let's say, even connection to nature. So how important is to always educate, especially if we're talking about audience, and so you have that kind of impact with social media and all of people who are following you in a way, talking more about teenagers, talking more about the new generation who wants to have that kind of love. I mean, I mentioned mermaid is because we have this kind of let's say love towards sea creatures, and the most let's say connected person towards it for us as humans is a mermaid. So we have so many teenagers who wants to become that and who wants to even have that kind of feeling, but yet again we have these influencers, we have these divers who are always up to educate them in a way. So tell us about how important is having that.
I love being able to educate younger ones who already maybe learned wrong teachings,
Right.
the correct teachings. Like a way, for example, is online in Sri Lanka at the moment. There's this very specific beach that has turtles that come up to the shore. A lot of people want to go to the turtles, and their first thought is they want to feed them, they want to touch them. But kind of educating people, oh, don't feed marine life, you're messing with their natural habitat and their natural way of how they get food by themselves.
Right.
Don't touch the turtles because there's an enzyme that's on them that actually protects them from infections that we might give them. So these things that maybe when you're younger you think, oh, I want to swim with a dolphin, I want to pet a turtle, you with time you realize that these things are actually maybe damaging, but there's also an alternate which will give you, if anything, more joy and more happiness than doing those things and having different kinds of interactions with those creatures.
Yes, indeed. So tell us more about your journey and reaching towards being a dive master. Like, tell us about that. Like, how did you manage to reach to this on point?
It's been a very crazy journey. I did my open water first level, waited about 2 years, did the next level, advanced, and then I waited 4 years. I did my rescue, and I did my rescue with my dive master at the same time. I did it in a really small island in Indonesia called Gili Trawangan, which is very known as like the divers hub where all the divers come around the world to dive those dive sites. And I spent 3 months on the island. It was beautiful. No cars, no motorcycles, just bicycling to the dive shop, back to my hotel. And it was just a very amazing experience getting to learn from different people in the dive industry that are all international. So they all had so many years experience, so many different destinations that they've gone diving at. So they had different tips and tricks that I could learn from. So definitely amazing to now apply to people that I'm teaching, like along the way.
Yeah, and what's really catchy about your journey is that you actually go and explore, let's say, different regions and different countries in order for you to be educated, which is something very great and something new also for the audience to hear about. People would consider this something very challenging in a way, but yet again, you make it really sound so easy. And if you're up for it and if you love something, then you should really try it to the max as well. So one of the things that when it comes into women, they're always, let's say, concerned about their hair, about not damaging it, entering too much seawater, and then let's say going back again, the heat, the sun, and everything. So having that said, like, does this actually occur to you when it comes into such a situation? Like, maybe today we have females who are watching us and thinking about that. Like, I want to learn, but yet again, I'm really terrified, and especially the ones who do bleaching. Once you enter the beach, it always turns out to be
Disaster.
different.
Yes. Yeah, of course. I pride myself on how healthy my hair is even after, doing continuous dives. I would definitely say wear those headbands because when you take your mask on and off, it always rips these hairs and you don't want to have bangs that you
Right.
didn't ask for. So that is
Right.
definitely one. Another very simple one is always, even if you're not diving, this is for anyone to be honest, if you're going to any beachy destination where there's salt water, the sea, always make sure that you fill your hair with natural water, like shower water,
Yes.
before you go into the sea because our hair is like a sponge. So you want to fill it with as much saturation of good water so that way less seawater goes into the hair. So that makes a very big difference.
Yes, and it's always important to always maintain the health of our body, just to enjoy what we like to do, and let's say, all as they say, enjoy it to the max as well. So one of the let's say catchy videos that I've noticed through your social media is that you posted about being very neaty and you really like it clean, but with water and everything, it turns out to be very messy. So one, I'm very sure lots of women do actually face that. We always want to look really pretty and amazing, but yet again, we want to experience that kind of great, let's say, exploration as well. So it's a very challenge to balance both of them away again in that kind of content. So tell us about that kind of, let's say, challenge that you face you, like trying to calm yourself down. I always like to be, let's say, at my best, but yet again, once you open the front camera, you're always shocked at what you see.
Oh, yes. I think for me, I just tell myself that the enjoyment of the sea is the number one.
Okay.
I try as much as I can because the rest, as much as I try and make sure I put my hair in protective hairstyles to make sure it doesn't get damaged, but also looks good. At some point, it's just the baby
Yeah.
hairs are gonna come
Yeah.
out, and you have no choice. So I just try and tell myself that I do as much as I can. Sunscreen, protect your skin. Of course, very important. You're in the sun for so many hours. Reef safe sunscreen and just protect your hair. And then the rest is just enjoy.
Yeah, yes, indeed. So one of the things that people always want to keep in mind is to try to present what we actually enjoy and see under the water for the audience who are really into knowing more about it. So when it comes into using cameras and gears and so on, everyone, let's say, want to enjoy the moment. Yet again, they want to take these kind of, let's say, memories and keep them with them as well. So having that said, how important is to enjoy the moment and to enjoy that kind of sense of exploring the sea, and yet again having that kind of great a little bit of time to take pictures and present it as well.
I think it's interesting because diving is a very peaceful sport. It makes you just appreciate everything around you. But then again, you have to do so many other things. You have to check how much air you have. You have to check if your body's not too far away. There's so many aspects to it. So I think it's about finding those pockets to do everything. Like, okay, right now there's this beautiful sea creature that's passing me. Enjoy it. Okay, now, check how much air I have. Okay, where's my buddy? Is my buddy close by? There he is. So it's just making sure that everything has this system underwater, and with time, the system just gets a lot easier to do.
Yes. So, how important is to always have that kind of, let's say, support? I mean, everyone loves that kind of support from family, friends, and even when it comes into diving, one of the things is for you to continue on doing your dream and reaching towards your level is to have that great support. So, tell us about that.
Oh, honestly, it's amazing. Support is everything from my family to my presence online. It's so amazing to know that what you're doing has such a bigger cause towards it. So
Right.
what I started thinking is just me, posting my love for diving has now turned to people advocating now more for sea creatures. If something happens in other countries, in Kuwait, they're always advocating that there's a better way to do something. Family encouraging me, knowing that, they're proud. Everyone seems to be proud, so it's a
Yeah.
beautiful feeling.
So it's very great to feel that kind of sense of proudness, and yet again, having that kind of support is also very important. And one of the things that always triggers a person is when you want to, let's say, for instance, show to the other person that this sport is really useful and it's really great. So tell us so far, what did you learn from diving? Like, what did it add towards your personality today?
Definitely something I've noticed that a lot of divers have is they have this sense of patience because they know that when with diving so many things can happen. It's sunny today and then it's raining, or you're supposed to dive at this dive site, you have to dive at that dive site. So having this patience and flexibility and just hopefully also having it in the non-diving life is I think what we all try and strive for.
Yes, indeed, and especially with our busy, hectic lifestyle, I really think and believe that we really need to increase that kind of awareness and sense of being patient and always be to a point where you are going to have everything, but within the right time and the right moment as well. So, as we reach towards the, let's say, a final time for our interview, what kind of advice you would like to give the audience today who are watching us, and especially when it comes into mastering diving?
I think definitely just try it. At the end of the day, I understand that you might feel it is overwhelming, intimidating, scary, but as soon as you do it, there's so much added benefits to you doing it. And also, it's a great way to burn calories without realizing. So
Yeah.
it's a great workout.
Well, there
Yeah.
you go. That's a very great advice from our guest. Thank you very much for being here with us today. And hopefully, we'll see you in great, let's say, levels when it comes into diving as well.
Yes, hopefully with you, Hiba. We'll
Well,
go
inshallah,
underwater.
we'll,
Yeah.
we'll see. So, with that being said, dear viewers, we're going to head to our wrap up break. So, stay tuned with us. This brings us to the end of today's episode. Hopefully, everyone did enjoy our guest, Mariam AlSaif, especially when it comes into presenting her journey, knowing more about her passion towards diving, and of course, mastering it at the same time. Remember, it's one of the ways that's the easiest ways to lose calories at the same time. With that being said, we're going to let you be. Hopefully, you'll join us in different new episodes of The Untold.